Humankind has not woven the web of life, but we are one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do it ourselves. All things are bound together. All things are connected. Our very survival is connected to the survival of others. Thank you very much for having me here. Isn't it wonderful for me to be standing here to congratulate our Metadris for the 2019 Hilton Humanitarian Prize recipient, an organization whose mission is to support refugees and migrants in the world in which we live, where we have seen so much negativity, so much marginalization of immigration, of migrants and refugees. I give you kudos to you for this work that you are championing. And isn't it amazing that I, Tererai, I stand here as a product of HEFA International, also a 2004 Hilton Humanitarian Prize laureate. Truly, there is something beautiful and ancient and sacred about the Hilton Foundation and its family. Conrad Hilton, in his last will and statement, he states, "Love one another, for that is the whole truth." So our fellow men and women deserve to be loved and encouraged, and never to be abandoned to wander alone. I am here to inspire you to continue to live the legacy, to continue to love. I'll also use my own story to make a point, but remember, I am not one story. There are many stories that shape who we are in this world. I come from a long line of generations of women who had been denied their right to education. I always visualized my great-grandmother when she was married off at a tender age. And my grandmother would follow suit and also got married off when she was at a tender age. And then my mother would also follow the same pathway. And I'd find myself 18 years of age, having 4 babies without a high school education. And one of the babies died as an infant because I failed to produce enough milk. I was a child myself. But that's not the point of my story. I don't want anyone to hear this story and feel, oh, poor Tererai, she must be a victim. And let me say that, no, I was not a victim. I am not a victim. I am part of the solution. And here is how I want to define myself, and I hope I can energize the whole world to define themselves this way. I am a dreamer. I am the master. I am a dreamer. I am the master and mistress of my own destiny. I refuse to let the past define who I am. I refuse to let the current challenges in my pathway become the narrative that I use for my future. I defied the rules of my father. I defied the norms of my culture, and I refuse to keep silent about societal expectations that marginalize women, girls to be submissive at the expense of their own dignity, and I will never be silent. But you ought to be asking yourself, why did I defy everything that shaped generations of women before me? I defied because I had hunger for a meaningful life. Let me tell you this, there are 2 kinds of hungers in our life. There is the little hunger. The little hunger is all about immediate gratification. It's all about not seeing the other. But the great hunger, the greatest of all hungers in our life, is hunger for meaning in our life. Ultimately, as individuals, when we lead a life without meaning, we become bitter. And that's the reason why the Hilton Foundation and its founder realized that when we love, we expand ourselves and we go there and uplift humanity. How did we then tap into this great hunger? I think the founder has really laid a foundation for us. He says we can only ask one question: what breaks your heart? It is in that question, in those moments of what breaks our heart, that's where we find the energy to go out into the world and make a difference. You got to define your own hunger. You got to define what breaks your heart. As I talk about my great-grandmother, I always visualized my great-grandmother was born in a race that she never defined. And she was born holding this baton. Are you familiar when you see athletics, they are running and they are holding this stick, and the aim is to pass it on to another and to another up until they pass, right? And I have the baton for you. She was born holding the baton of suffering, the baton of poverty, the baton of early marriage. And she ran so fast with that baton. She ran so fast. She hands that baton to my grandmother. My grandmother grabs this baton of suffering, the baton of poverty, the baton of abuse, the baton of a colonial system that never recognized her value. She ran so fast with that baton, my grandmother. She hands it over to my mother. My mother grabs the baton of suffering, the baton of poverty. She ran so fast with that baton, and she hands it over to me. I ran with that baton, but there was a point in my life I dropped that baton and I just said, bullshit. That's not my baton. That's not my race. I want to redefine my own baton. I want to redefine my own life. I'm not going to pass on this baton to the next generation. And that's what the founder of this organization is saying to us, to redefine these batons, to run with a different baton. And I decided to pick a different baton, which we are being encouraged to run with the baton of oppression to opportunities, to run with a baton that allows us to seek higher ground, to run with a baton that eliminates poverty in our world. That's the baton. And we are not going to drop this baton, because Madras, the organization winning this prize, has this baton, and they are running with this baton to reshift and redefine the oppression in our world. What a beautiful baton that we need. Well, you might be asking yourself, where is this woman coming from? I come from Zimbabwe. I grew up in a country called Rhodesia, and we gained our independence. I was young, miserable, without any hope at all, when all of a sudden in my community there were these women coming in, because the world became open when we gained independence. Australians, Americans, British. There was something about these women that I wanted. There was a kind of an empowerment, the way they walked. May I borrow your glasses, please? Yes, your glasses, please. Or I can borrow better glasses. May I borrow your glasses, please? And your bag as well. Please, may I? I need your bag. I need your glasses. Who has glasses? Who has glasses? Oh, yes, please. Give me your glasses. And who has a bag? And who has a bag? May I? May I get your bag, please? These women, they would come to the community, in my poor community, they would walk with a swag, and I wanted that, and they would talk to each other, they would open their bags, and they would put on these glasses, put them somewhere there, put the glasses back, open their bags, and they would take a small piece of paper, and they are reading. blah, 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 fantastic, fantastic, blah, blah, blah. And I am thinking to myself, maybe wearing glasses is a sign of education. I wanted those glasses so badly. Then, Heifer International came on the scene. This woman, Jolak, I had no idea what was her name, and she asked me one question, one fundamental question. What are your dreams? Me, poor black woman, marginalized. I'm supposed to dream. You must be kidding me. I kept quiet. Other women talked of their hopes for their kids, and she looked at me. Young woman, you have been quiet. What are your dreams? When I opened my mouth, I became a chatterbox, and I told her, I want to go to America. I want to have an undergraduate degree. I want to have a master's, and I want to have a Ph.D. There was silence. The other women were like, Tererai, you must be crazy. How can you say that? You have no high school education. You have an abusive husband. Let alone you think of going to America and you are expecting your fourth child. Jolak looked at me right into my eyes and said something that I'll never forget in my life. If you believe in your dreams, they are achievable. I work in so many nations, and I've seen women like you, poor, vulnerable, uneducated, but because of the power of believing in their dreams, they are educated and educating their children. I ran to my mother. I said, I met a woman who made me believe in my dreams. My mother said, Tererai, if you believe in what this stranger has said to you and you work hard, not only are you going to define who you are as a woman, but you are defining every life that comes out of your womb and generations to come. And I knew in those moments that my mother, very poor, but she was handing me an inheritance to give back, to realize that we are not only here for ourselves, but for others. She said, now, write down your dreams and bury them. The word bury and plant are the same in my culture. And plant those dreams deep down under the ground, the same way we bury the umbilical cord. When a child is born, the female elders of the village, they take the umbilical cord of that baby, they tie it and wrap it in an old piece of cloth, and they bury it deep down under the ground with the belief that when this child grows, wherever they go, whatever happens in their life, the umbilical cord will always remind them of their importance. My mother said, write down your dreams. Whatever happens to you, despite the abuse in your life, the oppression in your life, those dreams will always remind you of their importance. I wrote down my dreams, and I was ready to go and bury them when my mother asked me, Tererai, I only see 4 dreams to go to America, undergraduate, master's, and Ph.D. But let me tell you this, your dreams in this life will have greater meaning when they are tied to the betterment of your community. I looked at my mother, I had no idea what she's talking about. She was a very quiet woman. And she said, Tererai, your dreams in this life will have greater meaning when they are tied to the greater good. I would end up writing my number 5 dream, which I'm calling my sacred dream, my 5th dream. When I'm done, I want to come back and improve the lives of women and girls in my community, so the girls, they don't have to go through I had gone through. And I buried those dreams under the ground. 8 years, I would do my GED or a high school education. I call those 8 years of failing because we're still under the British system of education, where I would write my exams and go to the post office, this rural post office, mail these results to a place called Cambridge, and I would wait 6 months for those results to come back, and they would always come in a brown envelope, and I would open that brown envelope and I would find I have a U ungraded and a failure. I would go back to my mother because my mother was a subsistent farmer and I had no money, and she would sell her tomatoes and mangoes, and she would say, yes, we can do this, we can do this. And I'd go back and write again, wait another 6 months. The results come, I have a U, I have failed again. I'd go back to my mother, I'm crying, and my mother is crying, and she says, we can do this, we can do this. Because we realized there was a baton to be redefined. 8 years, I have an A, B, and I find myself at Oklahoma State University, where I would graduate with an undergraduate in agriculture and a master's in plant pathology. I was hungry. There was so much poverty in America. I couldn't take it anymore because I had to take care of 5 children and work 3 jobs. So I applied for a job. I have done my plant pathologist, I need a job. And I got accepted at a place called Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. And I went to Little Rock, Arkansas, and one day I'm walking in the corridors, and this woman looks at me and she said, I think I know you. And I'm like, I don't think I know you. I have met so many people in America. She said, I think I know you. Aren't you from Zimbabwe? In that moment, I realized this was Joe Luck, the woman who had inspired me to dream, the woman who had made me believe I can achieve my, and there she is. She's now the CEO and president of Heifer International. I went home, my first trip, dug those dreams, check going to America, check undergraduate, check masters, reburied those dreams, and came back to the United States of America and graduated with a Ph.D. in statistics and measurement from Western Michigan University. I was always the oldest student in my classes, but I never cared. Sometimes I was older than the professor herself or himself, but I never cared because I knew I was on a journey to change my life. And now I remember the day that now they say, Tererai, you are now a PhD holder. And I was going to walk that podium to receive that paper that now says, yes, you are a PhD holder. And I'm looking at all these professors wearing their gowns, and I'm walking, and I realized in that moment that it had taken me 20 years from the day that I buried my dream to this day that I'm going to receive this paper that says I am a PhD holder. I felt like a lawyer who had her case in the world. If there are lawyers in the room, please forgive me. Here was my closing statement. If we give education opportunities to those who are torn down and marginalized by the social ills of our time, they can achieve their dreams. If we believe in the dreams of others and enable them to have the opportunity to pursue those dreams, yes, we can. Collectively, if we come together and say we are done and tired about these social ills of our time, yes, the energy that we bring to that collectivity, we can shape and change this world. Now, I have a PhD. Now I have a PhD and I'm thinking, dear mother, why did you make me write that number 5 dream? How on earth am I going to achieve that? I am in America, I have a PhD, but I don't think I have money to improve the lives of women and girls. What does that even mean? Well, when Joe Luck came to the village, when she said, yes, it is achievable, she used this word, Tino Gona. Like the name Tino and I'm gonna dance. You put those two together, Tino Gona. It means it is achievable. She kept on using that word. And I said, I am going to design my own t-shirts. I'm not selling these t-shirts, I'm just showing you. I'm going to design my own t-shirts and have the word Tino Gona, it is achievable. I'm going to sell thousands of these t-shirts, go home, build schools, make sure that the girls are getting an education. Well, I only sold 20 t-shirts. And mostly to my friends, my American friends. I was devastated and I realized I didn't have a marketing degree after all. Then I got the most memorable call of my life, the call from Oprah Winfrey. And she donated $1.5 million towards that fifth dream. Then I realized all along my mother was an intelligent woman. She knew in our life it's not only about our personal goals in life. It's not only about our personal dreams in life. It's not only about our personal financial goals in life. It's not only about the education, but it is about how we use our talent and skills, how we connect those personal goals to the greater good. Today, through my foundation, I have managed to rebuild 11 schools, and now we are on to our 12th school in some of the poorest places in rural Zimbabwe. In rural Zimbabwe. 19,000 kids have gone through our education system. These are 19,000 girls, but in total 38,000 kids have been educated. And many say, Tererai, you must be lucky to have achieved your dreams. And I say, no, I don't believe in lucky. There is nothing like lucky. I believe in opportunities and encouragement. When we give others opportunities and we pave way and we create that fertile ground for others to rise, I tell you this, we can change what's happening in our lives. We can change the disparities in our lives. We can change the ugliness. We can shift human suffering in our life. Collectively, we can do it. I have seen it and I have done it. I encourage you, I inspire you to go out in the world and ask yourself the fundamental question, what breaks my heart? Just the same way Conrad Hilton has asked you. Love is everything. When we are guided and we are leading from love, we can change this world. We can do everything. I leave you with one saying, Ubuntu. I am because we are. Since we are, therefore I am. It takes great leadership, great organizations like the Hilton Foundation to realize that we are one in this web of life. And we can tap into our great hunger to change the life as we know it. Thank you.